was, and then now we know, like, oh, okay, they just did a thing to this thing that 3 episodes we didn't care about.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough to say, like, by the way, this is really important. Also, things are happening to it.
Yeah.
Well,
like, oh, they're gonna go to the Mesa. Yep. We did our job there.
It's it's quite a change to go from, season 1 where it was about a pretend Westworld, and now in season 2 we discovered there's a pretend Westworld.
And inside that Westworld, by the way.
Happy Monday, everybody. Where do things go?
Yeah, man, that Westworld. There's crazy stuff going on. Robots, metaphors,
Robots.
But also gunfights.
Man, gunfights to beat the band. And we're talking about a variety of different guns.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say a variety of bands.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the season much more, but there is the limitation of, like, the Mesa feels like is about as interesting as an abandoned shopping mall after you've already explored it.
Yeah. I think they actually shoot that in a shopping mall. Is that if I'm like an actual abandoned shopping mall?
Probably that would make sense.
It's probably cheaper than getting those escalators built.
Yeah, but I mean, it was pricey show, but yeah.
Sure.
The it's like, it doesn't feel bigger, and like we go to because it's like, hey, we're gonna go to, like, Samurai World. It's like, yeah, it's a lot like Westworld. No, like, literally, we just kind of changed the costumes.
Yeah. That was, I mean, I guess I would really love at some point to see whether or not they entertained the idea of doing more things are going wrong and the powers that be don't want to stop it, or are trying to contain it while keeping it close, just to keep guests in. Like, you would think that when Westworld was announced, that guests in peril stories would be a significant portion of the show. Right? Like,
well, given that
really
that's
the
entire conceit of the original is it's Jurassic Park before Jurassic Park.
Yes, in peril. But we haven't, which is an interesting way to go about it.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know. I mean, I would be curious to see other parts of the park that aren't part of the park, not these secret labs and stuff, but, like, yeah, here's a 50s era, little neighborhood things where hosts walk around and do stuff. It's not as big as everything else, but some people just have these weird.
You really could tap into, because, obviously this park is for the super wealthy, and you think about, like, there is a little Disney city. There's a city in Disney where super rich people buy little apartments, and you would think that the super rich would, there would be other lifers like William who would love to, just
live there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Live on the periphery of it so they could go anytime they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Just looking at the locations.
I'm ready over here.
I'm just glad Bernard's conflicted. I feel like it was about time.
And what a crazy thing, showing stuff out of order. Whoa, yeah, I never know. Did this happen before or after?
The best part about this very accurate review of the last episode of Westworld is that there's literally no spoilers.
Oh, and there was one, like, really great big spoiler surprise fun moment. Well, it's not even a moment, but there was a fun turn in last night's episode that I think was really nice.
Can you hint around it in a way that I'll recognize it?
Not in a way that won't re-spoil it. That won't spoil it. But it happened near the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. Let's do the show.
Yeah, I'm good to go. Are you good, Andrew?
I'm good.
All right, take it away in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood,
Hello.
Justin Robert Young,
Oh, hello.
and our super producer, Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody.
Man, it's hard enough living in these days and times and, waiting for technological progress every day, checking to see what development's been made in immortality and other stuff, and dealing with gear that doesn't work the way you want, and feeling that, like, man, like, it still feels like we're 50 years behind the times in some ways, Know what I'm saying?
I mean, are you talking about those timeless frustrations with modern conveniences that, even in the 1950s, people were frustrated by when their gizmos wouldn't work?
Yeah, you want better. You want the better tech. You want your phone to be thinner. You want your computer to be faster. You want your car to be all electric and drive you places.
Yeah. Well, are we heading in that direction?
Well,
It's about time we passed a law to make these things true.
So yes, and question is, like, how would you feel if all of a sudden we took you back to 1990? And I don't mean like your 1990, but I mean like just like 1990, like just level tech and all that kind of thing.
No, you couldn't pay me enough to go back to 20, 30 years ago. Drivers used to come on floppy disks, and if you lost the floppy disk, you had to write a letter on dead trees and say, please send me the drivers again.
Remember playing a really big video game because it came with a bunch of floppies and you're swapping them in and out?
Yeah, man. I remember copy protection involved a red filter so that you could see decoded materials to answer trivia questions.
Man, these are the kind of memories and more that we're going to be exploring this weekend when Brian and I debut Best of the Worst of the Internet, a Web 1.0 show that in Santa Monica on Sunday night will feature Andrew Main at the West Side Comedy Theater, 7 p.m., June 10th. The previous night in San Diego, June 9th.
So we all agree how much it would suck to have to travel back. I mean, it'd be kind of historically could be kind of interesting or something like that. I could wear my flared out jeans and shirts with zippers all over them and whatnot, and all sorts of colored caps, and be fine with it. But a lot of other stuff just not worth it.
You would have to have a very aggressive travel schedule. Right, like you would have to be like doing things that you can't do now or are different now.
Yeah, like committing crimes. That's the only reason I could think of is let's go back to when it was easier to commit crimes and disappear. Westworld. It's 1990s world.
Yeah, I mean, so imagine the further back you go. I mean, certainly little periods of time would be kind of neat, but to be stuck there would suck. So how would you like to be stuck? I don't know, like 4,500 years in the past.
That would be bad. I mean, I'd rather be me right now than a pharaoh of Egypt. I'd rather, yeah. I'm fine where I am.
Yeah.
So you can
not about it.
So you can understand the plight of the man stuck in our time from the year 6,491.
Wait, I've heard similar tales before. Is this the same guy that I heard about like 15, 20 years ago?
No, new guy. His name's James Oliver, not to be confused. And you know what he's done to prove that he's a time traveler? And like the proof is like incontrovertible, guys. It's just no way around it.
He said it?
Passed the lie detector test.
Oh, geez, yeah. With flying colors, no less.
I mean, it seems legit, right? As we all know, lie detector tests are universally considered as incontrovertible evidence. That's why all jury trials involve them and rely heavily on them. And it's not like self-delusion. One guy, they hooked him up to a lie detector test and they said, is Xenu real? And he said yes, and he passed, and that's why I'm in Scientology now.
It's working out really well, though, Brian. So, yeah, I think there's a video of him here, and I think you can hear him, which there is...
Oh, this would be great. We can find out what a future dialect sounds like.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in my mind, I'm like kind of expecting, because like I think like, you know, Doctor Who, he's from Gallifrey, which sounds all like, you know, parts of UK, which, let's see if we can hear this guy.
All right, so the lie detector says that you are telling the truth.
You want the Siri to be British.
In the first...
when he asked Siri a question, then Siri would respond British. So if you'd be, your Siri would respond to the Australian, and your father's would respond being British, even though they're both on the same device. Yeah, it works somewhat like that.
Interesting. Is global warming going to be a big issue in the future?
Yes, like I said the other night, yes it is. You guys are going to have significant issues with your planet becoming warmer and warmer. And like I said, it's going to be a mixture of man-made emissions and the fact that your planet is on a geological warming period. So it's a perfect storm of both natural and artificial happenings and occasions that are going to really cause an increase in global temperature, and it's going to start to become a problem. Especially, I know you've already heard an increase in tropical storms or drought periods or anything like that. It's going to get worse. So just be very careful of that in the future.
I mean, he's already. Okay, what doctor would come up with the knowledge that his patient is already dead? Would give the diagnosis of, yes, well, you're going to get bladder cancer and it's going to be terminal. It will metastasize and go throughout your entire body. So be very careful about that.
I mean, he survived long enough to come back in time.
Well, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
They asked him about, like, are there other planets? Says, you know, we're constantly finding new planets and galaxies every day. And then he says, sometimes we hit the jackpot. Lots of planets more intelligent than humans. There have been some conflicts, but most of it has been put under control by the Federation very quickly. The Federation is there as a peacekeeping vessel. Like, wow, what does this sound like? See, there's kind of like a United Nations style system of planetary leaders. You could kind of maybe call it like a United Federation of Planets or something.
Sure.
You know, saying
this is a
crazy new perspective on the future here, guys.
Yeah. Huh.
I would love to see a version of this where the interrogator was openly hostile to the alien, like ridiculing his future as being derivative, like
well,
you know,
wait. And another surprise feature is how we'll all have artificial intelligence systems called Siri.
Oh, shut up.
Everyone in the future will have their own artificial intelligence system called Siri, which recognizes users by their voice.
Okay, so who is interviewing this person?
I mean, I think it's being interviewed by, a group, a paranormal site group.
It's a YouTube channel, Apex TV. So
gotcha. Okay. All right. So this is something that is getting attention via YouTube, and so now that is the news hook and justification for it to be written about in other places.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Because I would say, in general, and this is kind of the hole in the sheet for a lot of these publications, is that they're like, oh, no, wait. We're covering the fact that people are watching it on YouTube. We're not responsible for actually reporting on this person or dealing with it. We're literally just, it could be slap bracelets or, Beanie Babies. Like, we're just covering the trend. When the number one thing is like, all right, well, who is this guy? Like, somebody get his driver's license that I'm sure he still has in his pocket, and just let's take a gander at this.
So they have more stuff here. They have an interview here with a man, the same channel. They have one with a man who claims to have been to the year 5000 and took a photo.
Did he bring it back, or is he just saying, I went there and I took a photo?
Wait, I guess, let's see, they do a real big tease on the photo here. and then I don't know if we actually see the photo.
They kind of have a lot of these, like, time traveler took this picture in the year 2118. Time traveler reveals picture of future car. This time traveler took this photo on Mars in 3812.
I mean, it
So
just
we don't
seems-
get the photo though.
Trying to see if we do get the photo.
Time traveler from 4126 brought back from future. There are a lot of very different time travelers on this website.
We need to have some sort of time immigration because this is really going to get unwieldy. You know, that was like the joke about how the Titanic sunk.
Well, and so
The weight of all the time travelers.
the most dangerous beaches in the world, guys.
here's what I suspect culturally is happening is that we are hungry for a certain type of story, and in a freewheeling marketplace with no penalties for being full of nonsense, like posting on YouTube, sooner or later something fills that open niche, and the story, whether it's right or wrong, it's too good to not pass along. I mean, here we are passing it along, just because it's so tasty in just the exact right way. That would explain multiple, memes trying to fill the same sociological niche.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always had. You look at Weekly World News, and you look at there's always been this place for the fringe. What was the magazine? The Fortean Times.
Oh yeah. Although Fortean Times did a pretty good job of not so much passing judgment, so much as being just a collection of really weird stuff of all varieties.
Oh, it was a great read.
Yeah,
just
posted,
a fun sort of.
Kind of posted without comment, where it's like, this is a claim about this thing. How about that? Moving along.
Yeah. So, I was thinking about this, the whole idea of if you said, hey, I'm from the future, if you're a magician, it could be a great gimmick because you could say, hey, here's the deal. I can't reveal anything that is going to change the world. So I will not tell you, who will be the next president. I will not tell you tomorrow's stock market prices because I can't interfere like that. Now, I can seal them inside of an envelope and put them inside of a safe. And after these things have been determined, I can then reveal them so that I'm not changing the course of history.
This is a great idea. And I would imagine you could actually, one of the routines could be, people ask me why, I broke reality once and I was severely admonished by the council. Let me tell you the story of
Always
that.
a council. And they wore jumpsuits too.
And show you the evidence of the greatest mistake I made as a time traveler. And then of course it's just another kick-ass mentalism effect, where you predicted the lottery or some nonsense. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, considering all mentalism is a different a coat of paint on exactly the same tricks over and over and over again, this definitely would do what all the best mentalists do, which is soft shoe and do the do the fun hoopla around. I got it right.
You also can solve the moral problem. Well, if you knew 9/11 was going to happen, why didn't you do anything about it? Because then I would never be born. Because from 300 years in the future, and if I change this thing now, all my family, everybody I know, is gone.
Either that, or you say
that's the thing for everything big, right? Because the bigger it is, the less you can change it, because this affects migrations and economies and jobs, and these are maybe little things, whether or not this specific bag of Funyuns gets taken from the Piggly Wiggly, can probably come out in the wash. But, the World War II, 9/11, those can't. Now you're talking about genocide if you change something willingly.
Yeah, well, and you could point out, you know what? Once I did. I stopped 9/11, but then I saw 9/12, and I went back in time and stopped myself from stopping 9/11.
Or you stopped 8/15 and then 9/11 happened.
That's right. Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 8/15 was so much worse. 9/11, best I could do, guys.
Yeah.
9/11, the best I could do, guys.
Really, all I can think of is jokes to come after that, and none of them are good for us. And we should.
Yeah. So, thinking about the future and protecting the future, you need to protect the future of our show if we can.
Yeah,
man. Patreon.com/weird things. Here's the deal. not only are you donating to independent media, we don't have ads on this show. We're very, very busy people, and we want to make sure that we continue to bring you this program, and that is dependent on you guys helping us. However, we do believe that if you give us money, you should get something back for it, and that's why you get that super simple RSS feed right there on the page. As soon as you become a patron, you can do it on your phone, the entire process. You can become a patron, copy that RSS link, pop it right in the podcatcher of your choice. Boom, you're done. No logging in, no authorizations. You don't have to wait for some different code every 5 months. This is dead simple. You get this show and you get our after show right there on your phone. Patreon.com/weirdthings.
For the record, a lot of people are telling me that they enjoy After Things as much, possibly more, because it's all centered on real, tangible, lifting up the skirt numbers, where we talk the real talk about what it's like to be an independent creator. Now, we have a background in magic and in authorship and in comedy, but whatever independent creation you do, we answer your questions and we give it the real talk because we love you.
Speaking of love, gentlemen, I love biology. Do you love biology? Do you love science?
I mean, you can't help it, right? It's like, do you love
Sure.
reality?
Well, I mean, not all of it. I mean, sometimes, I accept it. Is that the same? And that's the thing, too, is thinking about the whole, how long before we start instead of time travelers, we get people like, yeah, no, I'm a player in the simulation. I'm stuck. They won't let me out.
Oh, that's interesting. So imagine an MMO where your buy-in, let's say they get you young enough and you don't have anything, and you're like, this is the best MMO, everyone knows it's the best MMO. You're now the legal age of 18. You can sign this document. It's a 4-year commitment. You're going to live in the coolest spot in the known galaxy. Everyone knows it's the coolest spot. All we ask for is an ongoing percentage of your revenue for the rest of your life, but it won't matter because you're going to spend most of it in here, and it's a super good bargain. And then 4 years into it, you want out, but you're legally bound.
Or,
I mean, number one, you could probably do that for Fortnite loot right now. You could sign up half of American public school kids by saying, hey, you're going to get a new Fortnite skin if you give us a very, very reasonable 10% of all future earnings.
I mean, that does make sense.
We're just going to let rich people plug into your blood supply.
Yeah. Just show up to, don't worry, every once in a while you got to recharge your skins, and that means coming on down to the cafeteria where we're just going to stick a needle in you, and some of it will go to charity.
The rest will go to finance this amazing MMO that you're in.
Yeah.
Man, where are you at on the idea of selling blood?
I think you should be able to. I think you should be able to sell body tissues. I think that the reasoning is that we have shortages of certain things, and I think that you by de facto there's an entire industry that involves you're not allowed to sell these things, but you have handling fees, things like that are done. So I think that there's the danger of those, of course, is you don't want it to be something there's renewables and there's things that aren't, though. And that's the thing. It's like blood, you can keep producing blood, doing this like that. But yeah, getting, do we want to hear, part of it is, do we want to hear poor, stories about people selling kidneys who need their kidneys or whatever? Well, you can still do it. And, I think that ultimately you kind of have a certain amount of agency over your body to do that. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the thing is that is it on some way, does it become like altruistic suicide? This is, I'm going to degrade my life significantly to the point where death is far more likely for $50.
Yeah. Did I tell you what was happening at the airport when I left Australia?
Okay, go ahead. Because I know what was happening at the airport when I left Australia.
What's that?
I said I know what was happening at the airport when I left Australia. I was sitting and having coffee with Evan Tesloyd and Matthew Kopecki. It was delightful.
It just reminds me that I'm old Justin No Australia Young. Old domestic gerbs here. Everybody else flying to down under. Not me. Just hanging out.
We'll fix it.
Hey, guys.
So I was there possibly shooting my Discovery Channel special, and maybe very large, very, very, very large creatures that could eat people were involved, and maybe me in a very vulnerable position, like testicular shrinkage level. Like,
would you describe those animals as weak or strong?
They have a gentle side, I'm sure. But anyhow, so I'm going through this thing, right? And it was kind of an amazing, awesome experience. Can't wait to be able to talk more about it. So I empty the airport counter, and I look down like 20 feet away, 30 feet away. There's news crews there. Not for me, but there's news crews surrounding some guy in a wheelchair, right? They're like filming this guy in a wheelchair, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on there. So I asked the lady across the counter, and she's whispering to somebody else. And they go, oh, that's David Goodall. I'm like, who's that? David Goodall, an Australian scientist, 104 years old, who was flying to Switzerland.
Holy cow,
to end his life.
Him? You saw him?
I saw him. I saw him doing the interview. He was
oh
right down the
God.
counter. And I'm like, for me, it was kind of like a very interesting kind of like, man, I just went through this scary thing. Like, oh, look at this guy and what he's doing in his life. And it was just this same day I'm coming home, this guy's flying out there to Switzerland too. And I'm just looking over that he's being interviewed. And it was like just this sort of, and then I'm like finding out about this guy. So he's a scientist. He's 104 years old. And he's like, listen, I'm done. You know, I don't really want to go through a decline. I don't want to go beyond anything else now. Australia wouldn't allow for like assisted suicide there. So he says, all right, he's going to go to Switzerland to go do that. There were court cases, people trying to stop him, trying to prevent him from doing that. And finally he made it there and end his life.
Man, what a perfect case study for this question, this argument. I mean, you know, what is the argument? What is the non-spiritual argument to be made to keep a 104-year-old man who alive for what? You know, so he could break a record?
Well, I think when you frame it that way, it certainly you're putting your spin on their motivations for it. And I would say that there is this I would say that the pro don't let him, or the don't let him do it sort of thing is the idea of
the slippery slope argument.
I mean, not even, and that's a real argument. But I mean, it's a real. We can categorize slippery slope and say, hey, now that it's a thing that can be misused. But you know, when you follow, and this is not to lead there, but when you follow what actually led to the Holocaust and all the laws that were passed in Germany that went from, you know, we have an interest in public health. That sounds great. You know, sometimes people get really, really, really sick and it can't be helped, and we should have palliatives. We should do things to sort of help, you know, let them ease their way towards their end of life. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like it's a humane thing. Like, yeah, and you know, sometimes you're terminal and nothing can be done. Well, that's true. You know, tuberculosis can kind of be terminal, and like, well, okay. And you know who gets tuberculosis a lot? Gypsies and Jewish people, you know, and you're like, whoa. And that's the danger, is that all of a sudden you go from the government saying, and it can start with capital punishment too. You can say, if we have capital punishment and we're saying it's okay to kill people, then for what grounds? Like, only if you murder somebody. Or treason. Well, what does treason mean? You know, so I don't know. I'm not saying like, oh, I have an answer there, but I'm saying that to parse it. So like, yeah, I just was watching. I'm like, wow, like I get this guy's point of view. You know, you're 104.
Did you know at that moment that you were witnessing such an international news event? Or did you just kind of hear like, oh, I guess that's a local interest thing, and then later discover that literally most of the globe was talking about should he or shouldn't he?
I mean, when I looked at the number of camera crews around him, I knew this was something bigger. I knew something bigger was going on. And then I asked what it was. They said this. They said, oh, well, it's got all the international beats to it. But I'd been very much away from the news, so I had no idea. So my first encounter is I'm at the counter. I'm like, huh. That's weird. Why are they talking to this man in the wheelchair? And then somebody says to him, I'm like, oh, this is.
How long did he spend in Switzerland before he went through the rest of it?
It seemed like a week or two, maybe.
Yeah, I think I'm. This is kind of morbid, but I'm kind of curious as to like
What do you do to fill your days? It's like
Well, no,
you don't
like,
want to
spend-
die jet lagged. You got to get your
is that like-
schedule
like, do you, like,
adjusted.
do you like run right there from the airport? Like, do you get a dip in the pool? Like maybe some room
Yeah, no,
service
because I mean
beforehand?
he was
Like,
leaving the same day I was, and so I know what day I left. So I think he was about a week there. So
well, I hope he enjoyed it. I mean, like, do you say like, I hope you enjoyed your trip? Like, what do you? If he tips you on a tip, like, do you get upset?
I mean, like in your your immigration forms and stuff like this, are you really worried about declaring what you're bringing because they are going to check when you bring it back out?
Yeah, exactly, right?
you declare one soul. You're like, I have no intention of bringing it back home.
Yeah. You open up a credit card at IKEA.
Did we talk about this? I read the book when Breath Becomes Air. Did we talk about this on the show?
You
at all?
mentioned it. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, if this is an interesting question to you, I highly recommend it. It does so in a not morbid way. It's written by a neurologist who or a brain surgeon who finds out that he's got mega cancer and is going to die. And there's ups and downs, and then at one point the book abruptly ends, and his wife takes over and tells the rest of his story. And I don't know, it's not something anyone likes to think about, but when you thinking about this 104-year-old gentleman and his conscious decision that he's out and he's done, man, oh man, are there some ways it could go so much worse. And when you start thinking of, thankfully a peaceful death and for as miserable as some people might go out, I don't know, facing it face to face, I would imagine changes a lot about your perspective about what people should or shouldn't do.
Yeah. I don't have strong answers on it, and I'm sort of in the position of maximizing individual freedom. You obviously, that's the caveat. Like, you want to put safeguards in there to keep people from hurting themselves, but that's where it becomes problematic. It's like, you want people to hurt themselves by putting alcohol in their body, or smoking marijuana,
saving people from themselves.
Watching rated R movies
is another slippery slope.
Yeah. So, no easy answers here, folks. But, I think that we all enjoy the idea of just keep asking questions and trying to understand it from different points of view and perspectives. The story I was going to get to, which sort of this is going to become something more to the threshold. And I can imagine, I've been doing some courses, some computer learning, computer science, ML courses, all that. And one of the courses I did, they played that fantastic clip from the Today Show in the early 1990s. When Katie Couric and Bryant Gumbel are trying to explain what the internet is.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing.
So good.
Do you want to can we play that just as an example?
It's worth looking at because it's laughable now, but to anyone who was not alive or conscious or plugged in, it was not unreasonable at the time, because I remember being on the receiving end of that explanation of somebody explaining to me how the internet was different from bulletin board systems and.
You even had, I would say that that you even had a context though to understand what a BBS was,
right? And
I would say this was probably a year or two after the internet was already kind of a thing. But remember, we were all alive when and it was, the internet had been around before we were alive, but it was the World Wide Web, which was the big change. 1994, the Today Show, 24 years ago.
Yes, I wasn't prepared to translate that as I was doing that little tease.
Oh, that's
that little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At.
See, that's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
Katie said she thought it was about.
Yeah. Oh.
But I'd never heard
Or
it.
around
I'd never
or
heard it
about.
said. I'd always
That's
seen the
right.
mark, but never heard
Yeah.
it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
Yeah, I heard
be around
big
or
fight
about.
up in the lunchroom the other
See,
week.
there it is. Violence at NBC. GE.com. I mean,
Well, Allison should know.
what
do you
is
say to that,
internet
Allison?
anyway?
Internet is that
Massive computer
right,
network.
the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
No, she can't say anything in 10 seconds or less.
Oh, Allison will be in the studio shortly.
What is
What
it?
does it mean?
It's a giant computer network made up of started from.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us what this was.
It's like
You've
a
been looking in the
computer
dictionary.
billboard.
It's not in there. it's a computer billboard, but it's
Right.
nationwide, and it's several universities and everything all joined together. And
Right.
And others can access it.
Right.
And it's getting bigger and bigger all the time.
It
Just
came in
great.
really handy during the quake. A lot of people, that's how they were communicating out to tell family and loved ones they were okay because all the phone lines were down.
I was telling Katie, and I've
But
been
you don't
talking.
need that. You don't need a phone line to operate internet.
No.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful because it's so authentic and it's so exactly right. I remember being like 12 years old and to my shock and amazement, realizing that my father was alive before television. There was a time that he did not have a television in his house, and I could not wrap my mind around it. And I asked, like, what did you do? And he's like, well, I don't know, played, walked around, played sports.
This is boring,
punched
Brian.
each other, and I was like, whatever, I can't imagine it. And now my kids are in the exact same position.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
what's amazing is the fact that all those people have jobs, like that they are all still at the top of their profession, to show you how far we have come. And Katie Couric, I think up until very recently,
Had a Yahoo
worked-
show.
Yahoo!
Yeah.
Yahoo show.
She wound up working for Yahoo, and I think she might have just left.
No. Speaking of other 90s artifacts.
Hey-o.
Yeah, I think that on one hand it's very funny and kind of adorable to watch people struggling with what this thing is, but it's sincere and it's honest because we all have that moment. We all have that moment where, I remember in high school, internet and then World Wide Web happened kind of right after, and then hanging out with friends as we're, because I used to be on BBS's middle school. We used to do that. We used to play that, but then what this thing is doing, and there were mail services and stuff like this, but I didn't know anybody to send one to. But whenever you think about new technologies, new shifts, like I'm going through that sort of moment right now, is like I talk about, getting into artificial intelligence and all that sort of stuff. Did we talk about generative adversarial networks before?
I don't know that I know that term.
So remember we watched the Flintstones cartoon, the computer generated, right?
Correct. Where it took machine learning, took a bunch of elements and just sort of cobbled together, Fred Flintstone standing wearing a blue tie next to Wilma.
Right. So I found out there's a couple of different ways you can go about this, but one of the things that happened was as people started building like neural networks, imagine like a bunch of small little connectors that decide little algorithms, and you put something through it and say, what's in this? You put 1,000 images in there and find out what's common, and then you test it to see if it can tell the difference between something new you add to it, and you train something that to kind of do this. That's how we do facial recognition, etc. Well, generative adversarial networks happened when a guy, again, when I say a guy, this is like 4 years ago. He was 29 when he came up with this. Said, I wonder if I just put a random generator on one end of it, and I kept feeding it stuff through that network and getting a score, and then told the random generator to start, saying nope, but it would start putting blobs here and moving things around there. What would happen if I let that run through thousands of epochs? If all of a sudden that generator would just start being able to fake things? Could it fake a face if you told it nope, a little bit better, and then all of a sudden it would start putting blobs in certain spots and doing colors and stuff. And that's what's happened now is we've got computer systems that can generate a human face, not by doing a collage of human faces, but putting it through a face, putting random images through a random data through a detector and getting a feedback and telling it closer. Yep, that looks like a face. So if you do GAN, generative adversarial network, and then generate faces, look at the Google search on that, and you'll see some examples now of computer-generated faces. And again, it's not generated in the sense that it's like it took a bunch of 3D models of a human face. It literally, these are all like, it literally is just, it was a random generator that was getting feedback to say face-like, not face-like, face-like, not face-like, until it starts creating hyper-realistic faces. These have never existed before. These weren't in any database. It was just comparing it to, a generator that analyzed 50,000 images and being able to say, like, closer. Yeah, you see some of the earlier images are kind of scary.
Ha!
So.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah. And you can use this for a lot of stuff. It's not just faces. It's kind of creating other kinds of data and stuff. And so we're entering into this very fascinating world where the computers are getting creative in sort of the true sense, and generating new, taking data and generating new things from it we never thought would come before.
Where do you think the value of this is headed? Certainly we're getting to a place where, eventually you'll have a virtual director. Let's say you're somebody who has a spec script and they say, well, I don't want to read your spec script. I just want to see a computer simulation of what the movie might look like. And you run it through there and it pops it out. And, it manufactures versions of all the set pieces that you have. But I feel like there are some surprising edge cases of what this will lead to. And I would love to explore that territory with you guys if you have any ideas.
Yeah, Brian, I think that's exactly right, is that we can map what we think the future is onto our present and go like, yeah, I think it's going to look like this. But it's these things that we didn't see coming that are really, you look at, gaming was cool, and we had online gaming with other people in the 80s, small, games and stuff like this. Now that with mobile and gaming where it is now, the idea that most games by default you're playing with hundreds of people or thousands of people, how big this is just, it's a paradigm shift. You have a company like Twitch, what's a totally emergent system or company idea that you wouldn't even think about 20 years ago, because just the idea that bandwidth would be so cheap to be able to broadcast things and to talk about it. But there's such a community for this.
Do you know what just popped into my head from what you said? Here's a weird edge case. Tell me if A, you think this is plausible, and B, you think it's already happening. It occurs to me that if you have a powerful enough server farm, there's value in virtual consumers. People who live virtual lives, because we've talked about the problem with bots, right? There's that they stir up things and they guide things one way or the other. But imagine if you had a server farm that represented 10,000 different consumers, each one with a YouTube profile, each one with a Facebook, each one with a Twitter, each one with a surfing habit, a comment style habit, and basically and the ability to spend real money, the ability to go on to Amazon and buy stuff and evaluate it. I guess that's probably already happening in a hybrid kind of way, because we've heard stories of consumers in China who are hired to enhance their a company's Alibaba rating. So people will buy the stuff and then say, oh, super great, it's awesome. And it has to get sent somewhere. So oftentimes it gets sent to unwitting third parties in the United States or whatever. But why not virtualize all of that? And weirdly, at that point, could these virtual consumers possibly be adding a substantial percentage to the real economy?
I guess what comes down to saying that, like, what is the purpose of? I think there's going to be a point in the future where virtual people are going to be the biggest, fastest growing part of the economy. From your description there, who owns them, or what's the?
I don't know. It's too new a thought because it just popped into my mind. But I can imagine in the short term, somebody who is able to say, shrug his shoulders and say, yeah, I got bots that don't act like bots. I got bots that act like people that have complete profiles that if they are taken down as bots, they will write a letter of objection and send in photographs and blah, 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 blah. Like that all of a sudden, and I can encourage them to like your project, product.
Like review farms now, but more AI.
Yeah, correct. Like that's the short term. But then, like, what happens if the way to so imagine a race to perfection of enhanced bot farms, and then at some point they do enough buying and they do enough contribution to the economy that all of a sudden it's like, well, don't turn them off because this is really helpful, that it's bolstering the economy.
Well, you have an example of that now with the farms that are done to game ad networks, right? And so if I sell advertising on my website and I have Google as, I have a deal with Google, I will illegally hire these farms to generate web traffic. And so you'll see these, you see these places in Asia where they'll show like a wall with like 500 iPhones, old iPhones that are all connected to the internet. They're all playing the part of people and stuff, and that's why that's a big problem there. But so that it's a vital part of the gray market economy. It's a detriment. It's a cost to somewhere else because you're taking something out of the market and giving it to somebody else by not adding any value to the original, to other parties to it. But certainly, it's at least. But it's owned by somebody,
Well, I guess so. So we've already gotten comfortable with the idea of an AI that has figured out the right stories to tell to entertain humans.
Mm-hmm.
But for the first time, I'm trying on the reverse. What about a human that figures out the right stories to tell an audience of AIs? And then all of a sudden there's value to that person. It's like, no, I know exactly what they want to hear, and I put it out, and then they reward me with clicks, and that's how I make my living, is I am a comedian for AIs. Or I am
I guess it comes,
a thought leader.
How different is that than what you do every week with the Modern Rogue and Scam School?
Well, and certainly, I mean, we've talked about this before, the YouTube algorithm is, if you think too hard about it, you realize like anyone who makes their money from YouTube works for Google, and they have a manager, and their manager is an insane robot that will not tell them what it wants. It just simply rewards and punishes seemingly randomly, and you're supposed to eventually figure out, oh, my robot manager seems to like it when I do this. So, I mean, you're right.
Think about this is you might have a thing. There might be a value in, a lot as games become more complicated, online games, is to create more intelligent AI to play with as players, right? And one of the cool things that OpenAI, which is the initiative that Elon Musk has been backing to try to make sure we develop friendly AI, if you go to gym.openai.com, what they have is a really cool environment that you can play video games and try to train agents, systems to try to play games and do things. They have like Pac-Man and other stuff. So when you've heard about like, AI playing games, this is one of the ways you do it. In some computer machine learning courses is you go to this, you try to develop things that can play it and get better at it. And we've seen examples of, there's been the last couple of years some amazing developments in speeding up. We've talked about, AlphaGo, which beat Go, and then AlphaZero, which was able to become the best player at the game of Go without ever watching another human play. And so here they have a bunch of different examples of simple games, like trying to balance things and spin levers, and you're basically trying to develop, intelligent systems that understand what's going on, a version of Space Invaders, where it's trying to play that and to figure out the rules. And we've seen examples of these, AIs figuring out how to play these games better and coming to solutions humans have never seen before.
Jesus.
And they have a self-driving car one, too, which you can do, which is a simulator for doing that.
So would it be bad if AI bots suddenly... And as I'm saying this, I realize how ridiculous it sounds, but welcome to the Weird Things podcast. Would it be bad if 40% of the economy was just AIs buying and selling shit?
It depends on who owns them. I mean, it depends upon the ownership of them. And we do have that. We've watched that in the stock market where we have intelligent systems, these black box systems, which control and fluctuate the stock market.
And every so often you have a runaway effect where they have to press pause on the entire stock exchange as they're like, nope. Oranges are suddenly not worth negative dollars. Stop.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of the market stops these days happen, right? I mean, just as much as they are for like, all right, everybody, take a lunch and then think really hard about what you want to buy and sell. It's that you have these machines that will. All the machines are not interconnected, and they're all just triggering on actions that the previous machines are doing, and then they are taking actions, and next thing you know, nothing's worth anything, and we're all super poor.
So that's the fear, because there is this, you hear about kind of this AI kind of Cold War where China is starting to spend billions of dollars on it. We're trying to increase the amount of research and development into it. And the hypes of anything are always overblown to an extent until they're no longer and they become commonplace. And that's a thing that, you start to get into, Westworld where, hey, there's a Westworld, there's a digital version of Westworld inside of Westworld.
Now you're talking just crazy talk.
Well, it's interesting because things happen in ways we don't. I was reading a book, Steven Pinker's book on consciousness, and I had to stop and go look at when was this book written, because he started talking about artificial intelligence, and he's a guy that believes there's a lot to be learned about artificial intelligence and how we handle, how we understand the world or how we understand the brain. And then he made a comment about how facial recognition's really, really, really challenging. And he's like, well, if you're gonna, one, he had a description of a TV that I'm like, that's like an old TV they don't make anymore, a tube TV. I'm like, okay, it was just all right. It's still a good enough metaphor, but we're not scanning phosphors like we did. And then he said, well, facial recognition is so hard that in the future when you're going to go into a building, they're going to do iris recognition, not facial recognition, which maybe, but the most common form of visual recognition is facial recognition, and it's done in your phone. And so when he wrote this, I don't think he had any idea at how, because literally 3 years later they came up with this, after he wrote this, which was 1999, seminal paper in facial recognition came out, which has changed the game. And now everybody has a phone that does this now. And then he'd made some other things about, like, I don't think this century or the next we're going to see robots walking around doing chores and stuff. And it's like, I don't know what we're going to see. I don't know. And I know that we think we're close to something, and then we find out they're hard. Self-driving, we think we can handle 95% of situations. That remaining 5%, that's the big challenge of when there's a guy in an orange vest standing in the road flagging you trying to go that way. But then all of a sudden we solve these things.
Yeah, I mean, again, the optimal clip of this episode is not that Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel did not know what the internet was and we can all laugh at them because now we all do. It is that they were not, new kids on the block when they did that episode, and they are all still relevant. That's how fast this goes. This goes from nobody knowing to it's so passe we don't even really acknowledge it anymore.
And we find it novel that there was ever a time that anybody didn't understand all of this.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh boy. It's time.
Wait. Well, there's normally something that happens now, but it can't.
Well,
Because
it's been a while though. We had people out of town, and there's a lot of stuff has gotten in the way. The last time that we did something here, it was the adventure was over.
That was that thing. It's not Journey Quest. Not Journey
Oh,
Quest.
no. Yeah, Journey Quest had a beginning, a middle, and most importantly, an end.
What do
we do now?
Time now for Mission Quest!
Oh my God! It's a new quest! So what's Mission Quest?
Oh, gentlemen. So
it's pretty much Journey Quest.
Shut up. It's totally different. Totally different.
It's Mission Quest.
Mission Quest.
So, gentlemen, you're driving from the San Diego show.
Oh, this is in the very near future. This is a prediction of what's going to happen this upcoming weekend when we do our live show of Night Attack.
Or a show like this. It could be like this, okay?
Okay.
So, and by circumstances, the two of you are in an old Volkswagen van for some reason. The only thing the rental company had, okay, and it's just you guys driving. And
well, in fact, I remember, Justin. You remember we the rental car company said they had no rental cars, and then we tried Uber and Lyft, and both of the apps were busted. But we were able to go on a Craigslist, and we said need car now, and Craigslist said there was a VW van for $500. Dude showed right up, and it was like, well, that's worth it, and so we grabbed that VW bus.
Yeah, he did. And then took off in a jetpack.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't need that anymore. I have a jetpack.
No, you don't. You don't have a jetpack.
No, he does.
No, he does. No, the guy sold us the bus.
Yeah. No, he did not. He did not.
He told us he did, and that it was invisible, and that's why we couldn't see it.
Went into the Taco Bell bathroom, and then we didn't see him again.
I mean, I thought I heard like a...
Maybe the hand dryer, but... Could be a jetpack. Okay.
Well, all right. Agreed or disagree?
But we're definitely in this VW bus afterwards.
Definitely in this VW bus, yeah.
You're driving the VW bus. You're driving from San Diego to Santa Monica. It's about 3 a.m. You guys decide you need some tacos. Some tacos? You want some tacos?
Oh, my God. I'm feeling
Oh,
tacos.
yeah. We could always go for some tacos. Middle of the night tacos, of course.
Pull off the highway because she's Del Taco.
Justin, Del Taco, of course, is a staple of Southern California taco culture. But are we feeling like going with the big dog here? Or do we want to look for a more local place? I mean, we're in Southern California.
It's the only place that's open.
It's 3 a.m. I don't know how many taquerias are going to be slinging that.
All right, fine. Mediocre tacos. Let's go.
I mean, I'm just like, but like, do you have any other ideas other than we're just like on the hunt for a mom and pop taqueria at 3 a.m?
Let's knock on some doors. Ask if anyone has tortillas. Ask if anyone's got beef laying around. I mean, I'm just saying I'm up for an adventure. But we could just get some tacos.
You're getting dangerously close to let's break into somebody's house and just make tacos.
I mean, okay, if the door is unlocked, that's half an invitation right at the get-go. But it's fine. We've got the money.
Del Taco it is.
Okay.
We're rolling into Del Taco. They have fries.
You pull into Del Taco. You pull into the parking lot. You know, it's like, wait, has that black Escalade been following us all the way from San Diego?
Hey, Justin, I think that black Escalade might have been following us all the way from San Diego.
All right, Brian, how do you want to handle this surveillance situation?
Man, I already told you. We get out. We go ask if someone's got tortillas.
All right, no, that was not an excuse to open back up into your.
Okay, fine.
I need to breaking and entering to get my willy stiff to eat a taco situation.
Okay, Justin, I know it's way early for us to be doing this, but let's say we split up. I'm gonna go around the back, and I'm gonna pee behind this dumpster. And if anyone asks, I'll say that I had to pee and I wanted to do it behind this dumpster. You go into the building and we see if anyone follows us.
No, all right. No. I'm into that. No, I think that's what I was asking. Like, how are we we got to surveil them a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I loudly shout, "Oh man! That was a big gulp too many for me."
Brian walks in. As you're discussing this, the door opens to the Escalade, and you see a man, well-dressed man, khakis, blazer, looks to be in his mid-50s.
I say, "Oh, excuse me."
Looks over, nods to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "I think the bathroom's full," and so I start
portfolio. That's great. Walks inside, goes up to the counter, and orders some tacos.
Okay, well, I start kind of hobbling, doing a waddle walk, like I have a really full belly. Like, whoa.
And he goes and he sits down, wait for his order.
I'm in the back of the Del Taco at this point, and I
thought you were back by the. So you're following him in?
No. I went around to the back. I'm back by the dumpster.
Gotcha.
I had the plan and everything, Justin. Okay, right.
I didn't know. We had crossed wires.
I'm comically looking over my left shoulder and right shoulder and left shoulder again to see if anybody's peeking. Do I? Can I roll for perception and see if anybody is watching me pee behind this dumpster?
Nobody cares. Nobody's watching. Although you do notice some graffiti on the wall. Fresh graffiti.
I read the graffiti.
The troll is coming.
I reach forward with my pinky finger and swipe across it to see if the paint is still wet.
It's not wet, but it looks like it was there put a few days. It says the troll is coming.
Right, sniff. Okay. I nod.
Okay. At this point, Brian's lost eyes on the Escalade man, right?
No, Escalade man's sitting inside of Del Taco waiting for his order. Brian's in the back of there relieving himself.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so
Brian's sitting behind there by himself.
I am following the Escalade man in. I wait behind him, and I is there anything else about his physical form that I can tell now that I'm standing next to him?
Distinguished looking guy. He looks over at you and he says, "Hey, great show."
I strike up a conversation with him and say, "Oh, were you at the San Diego show?"
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan.
Do I recognize him from the San Diego show?
Like, I'm a bit of a lurker. You know, you probably sat in the back.
I kick in the door of the Del Taco, and I'm like, "Justin, I went pee back there, and I didn't see anybody. It didn't seem like anybody was following us at all."
So you're
Brian,
yelling through the kitchen?
Yeah.
Are you gonna wash your hands?
I was like, now I'm going to go inside the bathroom over here and wash my hands because otherwise that'd be insanitary. I rubbed my finger across some graffiti to see if it was fresh. I felt like it was fresh, but none got on my fingers. But I feel like I should wash my hands. I'll be in the bathroom if you need me, and I go in the bathroom.
That's good. Not that it matters. When he looks down at his tacos and a little tear comes down his eye.
I look at the guy and I say, Brian, recycling material from the show earlier tonight, huh?
Yeah.
What does he say back?
Yeah, no, it's great, guys. And he just looks wistfully out the window. And Brian can hear from the bathroom because it's a small Del Taco, and he's just like, just enjoy life while you can. Just enjoy it while you can.
I say, hey, listen, mister. I pull out a chair and I sit next to him, and I'm like, look, I have no doubt that you know who we are, and it seems weird that you would say that you were at the show that we literally just did. But Brian didn't make a joke like that at all during the Night Attack show that you claim to be in the back seeing, and my photographic memory does not remember you there. So what do you say you fess up with some real deets here,
Also, as the camera pans wide, you see that somehow I've snuck back next to Justin, and I'm there the whole time. And I nod, and I was like, yeah.
It's like, listen, I was there. I got the ticket stubs, guys. And I'm a fan. I am a fan. I've got your albums. I buy your merch. I got your stickers. He reaches over and pulls out a laptop, and there's a Diamond Club sticker on the back, and I die in the fire. And
I say, if you're a real fan, then what is Andrew Maine's favorite selection from the dollar menu at McDonald's?
It's like, I don't know. It probably changes.
Yeah? Well, describe to me the thought process.
All right, lucky guess.
It's all right, guys. It's all right. And he's just opens up his laptop, looks at the screen, and looks up at you like, no, shuts it.
Hey, buddy.
Anyhow.
Were you getting ready to load up Hearthstone? Because Justin doesn't play video games, but he knows the thing or two about the H.
Yeah, no. Anyhow, good show. Good show, guys.
Here. All right. Hey, do me a favor. What's your name, by the way?
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, let's cut the jive. You had something crazy on your laptop, and you wistfully said, live life while you can. It seems like that there's something on your mind, and I'm going to need you to go ahead and spill it out here.
I understand your reticence to share with us, but perhaps Mr. Beefsteak Soft Taco will influence your decision?
So let me ask you a hypothetical. You guys are really great at these things, especially when you don't have that Andrew guy sort of weighing you down. If you had a choice between living a full life, but maybe midway through, not a full life, but dying in your sleep and never knowing you're about to die, or living a longer life, but then having an agonizing death knowing that it was coming, which would you choose?
I reach over and whisper into Justin's ear.
And I'm not going to murder you.
Okay. I whisper to Justin, that I didn't really expect him to take that beef soft taco. I was really hoping to finish that.
It's Del Taco. They're very cheap.
Okay.
So
right.
In fact, you want to know what?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and make the call now out of the budget.
Reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a credit card. It's not black. It's not titanium. It's not. It's clear. It's a clear, full-on clear credit card. Goes up to the counter, says, "Give them whatever they want."
Okay. All right. I grab my beef soft taco and between mouthfuls say, I probably want to die in my sleep. I'm really not excited about being scared of my own death, and I'd like to sneak up against me.
No, I would go the opposite way. I would prefer to live the longest life possible, and I would find that confronting and conquering my fear of death would be the adventure of a lifetime.
Interesting. And what if you had a disease that was incurable?
I say, this hypothetical disease, is it beef transmitted?
Pardon me?
This hypothetical disease, is it transmitted by way of beef?
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Oh, sorry.
No. I mean, would you, if you had it, would you want to know Because let's say you knew it didn't change the fact that you were going to die. You didn't feel any symptoms until basically the last day.
Yeah, no, I'd appreciate the heads up because I'd have some affairs to get in order.
Interesting. He looks down at his laptop. Looks back up at you.
I look at him. I look at him with quizzical eyes. I say, "You seem to have some very specific dark scenarios," and then pause and then say, "You're not a fan of the Weird Things podcast, are you?"
It's not my favorite one. I'm more of I like Light Attack. It's a little lighter.
Okay, Light Attack?
Not as intellectual,
Yeah. You seem to be a dark, mysterious personality with an endless source of money. And I know that because we just ordered $100,000 worth of tacos, and the order went through without a hitch. What's your game, Mystery Man?
It's Hawthorne Snyder to you. You can call me Hawthorne.
What's up,
Big
Hawthorne?
H, hot, whatever you want. Back in the 80s, I was a computer scientist and a mathematician and into physics, and I started building computer models. I realized that you could predict things like currency fluctuations and certain things in the stock market. You can't predict it in the long run, but if you have the faster computer system and you pick up these things quicker, you can do microsecond transactions. You can make yourself quite wealthy, and I made myself a very wealthy man. Very wealthy man, but I don't like publicity. I try to keep it sort of kind of to myself. You're not going to really see me listed in Fortune or Forbes. You might see my name in a few places. You might know that I'm attached to some hedge funds and stuff, but I'm not a flashy man. I avoid politics. I avoid these things. I just follow my passions. My passions, podcasting, listening to you guys. It's a big passion for mine. I want to creep you out.
Dude, this is great. Quick question. Are you familiar with patreon.com/Night Attack?
It's like, you know what, gentlemen, I am, and I feel bad that I feel guilty that I haven't gotten around to do it.
Don't worry. We'll take it out in tacos.
Pulls out his laptop. You get a notification from Patreon all of a sudden. What was your max? What was your max spending level? Your max funding level?
Well,
there?
$50 a horse boy.
Yeah, but what's like? Yeah, like I guess what was your goal? Your overall goal there?
Oh, like you know, we're shooting. We start having big rewards at $1 million per Tuesday night.
It's like, all right, I like you guys. I don't like you that much, but that's $10,000 per Tuesday night sound.
Pretty great, boss.
All right,
thumbs up.
There you go. And then he closes the laptop and looks wistfully out the window.
Hey, man, look, now that we're friends and you're our boss and everything, you seem a little down. You seem a bit distracted. Can we help you?
There is no help for this, guys. There is no help for this. Just do your shows, make people laugh, make people merry.
All right. Listen, you are a tremendous benefactor, and I'm glad that we've run into you. I'm really apologetic for this weird pea-centric cloak and dagger routine that Brian and I ran on you as you walked in. So now all of our cards are on the table. I'm going to ask for some honesty. If we could do one thing for you beyond what we're already doing, what would you ask of us?
There's nothing can be done. Nothing can be done.
Well, it sounds okay. Forgive me. Maybe I'm a bit out of line here, but it seems like you're wistful and upset because you feel like an impending disaster is coming, and maybe there's some things in your computer forecasting that look pretty bad. But look, even if we can't change that thing, we can just change the circumstances of our lives leading up to it. What would do the most good for you?
I don't know if you want this burden.
What else are we doing? I already finished.
No, and for whatever reason, I start turning to the other Del Taco 3 a.m. patrons. I don't know, guys. Do we want this burden? And then I wait for a big thunderous response of yes.
And then we hear the hand dryer go off in the bathroom, and all of a sudden the guy who sold us the VW bus walks out, and we're like, yeah, we do.
He's not there. Brian's just staring into the space, imagining.
I was imagining
that. Doing an impression of the guy.
Yeah.
It's great. Also, the impression.
It's like, all right, let me think about this. From the man gets up, walks outside, stares up at the sky. His hands are on his hips, looking into the moonlight, thinking things over. Then all of a sudden, a black SUV comes racing through the parking lot, smacks into him, knocks him across the ground, and the car drives off.
Oh,
In the restaurant?
No,
outside.
outside.
This is outside. Yeah, no, I run over and I tear open his coat and I feel across his chest for that clear credit card, but then also to see if he's breathing.
Password.
Hawthorne, what's the password?
Shut up.
Password is password.
Password? I begin to administer CPR.
Yeah,
Blood
all right,
starts trickling out of his mouth all over you.
Oh man.
So we're agreeing it was Passworm. Passworm.
Oh, I thought it was Passworn. WORN. Like a
worn?
a decayed, overused.
Password is
I pull out my phone.
DIAF. Dies.
Oh, Dave, you said DIAF. I heard that.
DIAF.
I still look for that clear credit card just in case.
Wait. It's DIAC. Yes, DIAC. I changed it given what's happening. And then he dies.
Oh, no. Hold on. Die in a fire. So it's not die in a fire. Maybe die in a catastrophe? Died in a cataclysm? Die in a
Hand reaches
catechism?
up towards his nose, and he taps it.
Oh no! I say, but seriously, I'm going to take that clear credit card, and then I try to find the clear credit card.
His hand reaches out, and he hands you the clear credit card.
I nod to him, and I say, "We're going to stop the sea." You?
No, he's there, dead in the parking lot. His
All right,
laptop's
so we
back
call
on the table.
cops. Call the cops to get a police report in.
So you call the cops. Where are you right now?
We're at the Del Taco, man. In fact, I looked and I hope there's a payphone because I hope there's artifacts that will make cinematography easy on this.
There is a payphone.
Oh, good. So I dial 91900 cops, and
Before you get to the payphone, it starts to ring.
what? I pick up the phone, and quizzically I look to Justin and gesture.
Run! Get out of there! They're about to get you.
I immediately hang up the phone and say, "Let's just hide in these shadows. That's a fun game, Justin. Come on."
I mean, like, should we move our car?
Nope. I think we should go right now. We got the clear credit card. We got shadows. What wouldn't be fun about this? And I immediately dive into the shadows.
As you run by the shadows, you realize his laptop is still sitting on the table.
Um,
I'm only going
get
to
the
say this for
laptop
one
and
more
then I
time
scamper
before I
into the
remind
shadow.
you. That might be something you want.
I run into the Del Taco. I get the laptop and then I say, "Hey, do me a favor. I want you to just leave those $100,000 worth of tacos behind the counter. I'm coming back to get the tacos, so don't eat them."
I shout from inside the bushes. I was like, "Give him a name. Give him a name to put him under."
You want to put him under Hawthorne?
I was like, I got a bad feeling. Mainly because a phone call told me that something bad's gonna happen.
I grab at least $70 worth of tacos that have already been created on my way out because we're going to be on the road.
I immediately, upon seeing Justin, I ask, how many of those are beef? How many of those chicken?
And I say, well, let's sit down and count them. We then spend the next 45 minutes counting and cataloging all of the different tacos.
But in the shadows.
Not eating them. So it involves us sticking our fingers into the taco, each taco, and saying, beef? Or is that a question
You hear
mark?
a whistling sound overhead.
Hey, Justin, I think we should vacate the premises.
Run fast.
So we start running away.
To the van, where are you going?
Just out, and I don't trust.
On foot, on car.
Yeah, on foot.
It mimight be time to get into the car, Brian.
Well, okay, fine. We get into the car. We get into the car. We start the car. We start driving away.
Boom! Del Taco's blown up.
Oh my gosh! Justin, you're driving. Slam on the gas. Let's go.
The tacos! I scream as we drive down the road.
I am munching on various soft tacos as I ask, man, that guy really seemed to know a lot about the future, and now we have his laptop. While you're driving, didn't he mention a password? So I open up the password and open up the laptop.
Which is?
DIAC, I write, and then hit enter.
Hit enter. Next thing you know, there's an app running with a countdown clock.
How much time is on the countdown clock?
42 days.
Justin, we got time to hit our Santa Monica gig and then 41 more days to spare.
Before what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's I examined the app. I opened up the digital signature and go to help and then about to see who wrote the app.
Well, I mean, it's Hawthorne, but then you notice on the desktop there is a note that says to Brian and Justin.
Oh, I opened up the note. I said, Justin, I think there's a note to both of us.
I say, oh, while I eat a taco and drive.
Dear Brian and Justin, I've wrestled with this. Should I tell you or should I not? If you're reading this now, it's probably too late for me, but not too late for you. To live life to your fullest, to enjoy things as you can, to love the ones around you, and all that other stuff. But if you really have to know what's going on, click this hyperlink underlined here.
Justin, do we really want to know what's going on?
Be warned.
Hold on, I'm still reading.
Your life will never be the same again.
Justin, do you mind if our lives are never the same again? Because it sounds like he knows something and he wants to give us every opportunity to not know it.
If I could not know it, I would not know this.
I have my mouth
hyperlink here.
I have my mouth filled with tacos, and I make a noise that if you heard 100 times, 50 times would sound like no, and 50 times would sound like sure.
So I read the words before telling Justin so that I might, if I deem it necessary, spare him the horrific knowledge contained within.
So you click the link?
I do click the link.
And a video pops up and starts to autoplay, and it's Hawthorne. Gentlemen,
I'm frantically...
I appreciate your bravery for clicking on this. Now I will tell you everything, and you will never be the same again.
I shrug my shoulders and let it play.
I've used my fortune to investigate many different scientific endeavors. I've funded cloning. I've funded particle physics. I've funded microbiology. I've funded massive artificial intelligence systems. I've funded an array of telescopes. Nothing could have prepared for the discovery that I made, or the realization that I was not the first one to make this, or the lengths at which people will go to keep this a secret.
And that is, I say...
In the video.
Okay.
Click here to watch the next video.
I click there to watch the next video.
I'm glad you made it to this video. Now I will be able to tell you everything about Troll and what you need to know.
Troll?
Not that you can do anything about it.
I tapped Justin on the shoulder. And I said, that's what the graffiti said. It was freshly painted while I was peeing out in the back.
I make another noise that could be either sure or no.
Understand now, there is no going back. Nothing you can do.
I say, God, video, go. Let's hear it.
And he holds up a photograph. I had this photograph made, even though I'm doing a video, and I could have just inserted it, but I wanted you to know that it was real, although I printed it out. Which, anyhow, just go with it, guys. Photograph.
What's the photograph of?
It's black. It's just black.
Wait, As if I'm a 1950s housewife yelling at a television, I'm like, well, what the heck? That's a black photo. That's not a photo of nothing at all.
It is the most terrifying photograph I've ever seen, gentlemen.
I look at me. I'm talking to a video playback. I don't suppose he'll figure out what question I'm about to ask, but what would be significant about a photograph of a bunch of nothing?
This was taken from one of my private telescopes.
Well, I mean, it seems like you should have... Wait a minute. Justin, if this is from a telescope, where are the stars?
Oh, well, actually, it's adjusted for that. But let me show you a photograph taken from one of my secret telescopes. It's got a highly elliptical orbit. It was taken from a slight angle at just the right time. It's a slight glimmer.
Justin, I don't get none of this. I just wish
now, I'm sure you may be confused and may not get any of this, but that's fine. What you're looking at is a black comet.
Justin, a black comet sounds kind of like a black hole, but that travels through space. And I would imagine if it was a black hole traveling through space, it could hit the Earth and then suck the Earth up, and then we'd all die.
Not a black hole. That would be idiotic. It's just a massive, large object heading towards the Earth that our telescopes cannot pick up. Only my secret telescope array is able to pick it up, and possibly other intelligence agencies have discovered this.
I turn to Justin and I say to Justin, wow, man, Hawthorne really seems to have a problem with Neil Stephenson's book Seven Eves for some reason. What do you think?
Brian, are we about to Armageddon this?
I mean, certainly we're the only ones who know. There's the powers that be that may know by implication, and then there's us who have firsthand accounts of a computer simulation that says that a black comet is headed to destroy the world. We've got to save the world, Justin.
Is there anywhere in that FAQ that says who can we trust and who can't we trust? Because somebody definitely sent a missile to blow up that Del Taco, and missiles aren't cheap. So there's really only a few kinds of people that could be blowing up a Del Taco.
Well, play the next video.
I click play on the next video.
You know, at first, I thought, and my researchers thought, it was a black comet, purely just a black comet. We thought it was purely that's what's going to happen to us. We thought this is what's going on. We thought that, hey, we've seen this scenario. We've seen this in Larry Niven novels. We've seen this over and over. Purnell. We've seen this a lot of times. And, you know, the tendency to say, oh, I know how this plays out. I understand that. But then
I click next video.
Click the next video. And then there's like an FFmpeg error. So now you've got to look at work.
So I restart it.
The curious thing was, we looked at it, we tried to figure out what was going on. My researchers looked at this thing. We looked for more data. We looked for more scans. We picked up a radio signal.
I turned to Justin wide-eyed with my mouth in an O shape as my eyebrows dance comically in surprise.
So we don't know. Things heading towards us at speeds that will annihilate the Earth, could cause major problems. It's several miles long. It's like 20 miles long. It's massive. It's huge. And we think there may be some sort of radio signal coming from it.
All right. I pressed pause on the video and I turned to Justin. I was like, Justin, we got to find out everything we can. We are in Southern California, in the Los Angeles area. We need somebody who has a knowledge of how to get to space.
And I know everybody's inclined to think this is their most recent movie reference or whatever that comes to mind. But over 100 years ago, H.G. Wells talked about a scenario like this.
I look
There's
quizzically.
a really, really deep knowledge of science fiction that seems to be pinpricked from one specific comment that happened earlier in the ride.
I turned to Justin. I was like, dude, we got to go see if we can break into Elon Musk's mansion, that we can present this information from him and together work with Elon Musk to stop or save the world.
Now, I have one more thing to say on this video.
I look at the pause button wondering why it's so busted, but I let it go.
He reaches into his pocket and he pulls out piece of black rock. Or some material, some shiny material.
Yeah.
Throws up in the air and it gently lands back in his hand. Like it just weighs nothing. Lands. I know what you're going. Pretty cool trick. Well, Brian, this is no scam.
I turned to Justin and I mouthed the words, how did he know I was the one watching the video?
When I decided to
the entire
investigate
time
what was going on, I sent research teams around the world looking for more evidence. Not up there, but in the earth. And I sent a team to Tunguska in Siberia, where we had may have been a comet or a meteor impact 100 years ago. We found out there was a bit of a cover-up there. More was found. Materials were found. Materials like this. So whatever's heading towards us, we may have been visited before by something like it.
I before saying anything, I tap forward to see if there are any other videos.
That's the end of the videos for now. Everything else will be time released as need be.
All right, Justin. It seems like it sounds like a very specific instruction on this computer. This seems like a really important. I put the laptop in my backpack in my inventory to make sure that it definitely doesn't get lost.
All right,
Justin, where do we go? I mean, it's like it sounds like we can go to Tunguska over in the former USSR, but Elon Musk is much closer, and we could surely trust him, right?
Brian, there's something that needs to happen now that I'm shocked hasn't happened yet.
I need to cut off my hand and replace it with a chainsaw?
No.
Oh.
You need to DM Elon Musk.
I look at my Twitter to check and see if Elon Musk follows me.
Does he?
That doesn't. No, he doesn't follow.
He doesn't. I at reply in public Elon Musk say, "Yo, I need a follow so I could DM you something. It's a very all caps." Very important importance. And then in parentheses, like maybe the world. And then I put ... ever hear of troll ? In parentheses.
It's like Brian just decides to just publicly go out there with this thing that people are getting killed for.
Hyper secret information that literally.
I mean, hey man, I'm sure only
so
he
you,
would.
You publicly tweet this?
I mean, I have to. He doesn't follow me.
You can not say the thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Let me.
Oh no, Brian tweeted it, but there's an error. That tweet disappeared.
Hold on. I tweet again at Elon Musk. Yo, follow me back. Team follow back, and then enter.
And you wait, and he does not follow you back.
Oh man.
Because then you look at all of his tweets and reply. You look at all the people tweeting at him. The number of people have said the same damn thing you said.
Team follow back.
You know, follow me back. Follow me. Hey, Elon, follow me. Whatever. I got information you need.
We got it. All right. Maybe don't say troll, but just include a picture of a troll doll.
Okay. I send him a picture of. I turned to Justin and I say,
an astronaut troll doll.
I say, Justin, real quick.
They had different outfits.
Take your hair and make it in a Cupid doll shape, like a crazy troll doll.
And search on the internet.
No, this will be easier. All right, I'm afraid to search troll because I'm sure. Okay, I go to DuckDuckGo because I trust them, and I type in troll doll, and then I get a picture and I send that to Elon Musk, and I say, "Yo, slide into my DMs."
All right, so you're driving along. 20 minutes later, you get a direct message.
Oof.
Not from Elon Musk.
Oh.
From who?
From Ed Begley Jr.?
It's Space Guy 207-11111.
Who's this poser? I without reading his response.
You're not even gonna read it?
I'm not even reading it. I just respond back like, desperate for followers much? ? And then I read it. First I respond, then I read it.
Okay.
So you want to know about Troll? I can tell you about Troll. I can tell you why Elon Musk won't tell you about Troll.
And then I respond, I apologize. I probably should have read this before my previous tweet.
No worries. You're not by any chance in between, I don't know, let's say Temecula and Santa Monica.
I turn to Justin and I say, "Hey, man, where are we?"
And I say, well, we just passed Temecula, and the sign up ahead says Santa Monica.
Meet me here, and he sends you a Google Maps.
Hey, this looks like it's just right on the way. And I show it to Justin. I say, drive us to this point.
It's a little industrial park. It's about a mile or two off the road.
I mean, this seems safe, right?
Sure. Man, I hate to break the mood, but I do got to bounce. Like,
yeah. So we'll find out next week if you're going to go or not.
No, we're definitely going.
Quest.
We're definitely going. We're definitely going. We got to creep up on it. But next week's Mission Quest.
Yes! I'm so sorry, guys. I should have made clear.
No worries. Give us a pick in less than 3 sentences.
My pick is Handmaid's Tale. It's really good this season. It's a great example of dystopic science fiction that continues to add to its world and becomes more interesting and complex each episode.
Well done. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, I was so excited to be starting a new mission with Mission Quest. It's gonna be great.
And it's never going to end up where you think it's going to end up.
I know.
You know that.
I know. It's so much fun. I just love, when we played Dungeons and Dragons and when I played City of Heroes and stuff, there's nothing better than a blank character sheet, just feeling like anything is possible. Hey, man, I got a pick that I've given before, but I'm rereading right now. I don't know if I successfully got you to read it, but it begins with The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. It's the Gentleman Bastards series. I found myself when I was in Australia swapping stories of good sci-fi and fantasy books with somebody, and the more I started to talk up The Lies of Locke Lamora, the more like viscerally excited I got to go back and experience again. I'm really digging it. And as often happens, when you experience a story for the second time and what started off as a bunch of expositional, I don't want to say nonsense, but you're like, well, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. This sounds like world building. Okay, I'm getting my sea legs underneath me. It's so much fun to go back and realize that the author has had the ending in mind from the very beginning, and that when you know the world, you're like, oh my God, of course, he's just flat out telling me where stuff is going to go. This is amazing. It's
great.
It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Begin with The Lies of Locke Lamora. It's the Gentleman Bastards series.
Cool. Brace?
I just got back into a video game that I had dropped a few months ago, and I'm liking it more than I liked it when I first started it, because so much of it is there are some issues with it, but I've been really getting back into Persona 5. It is a turn-based RPG where you spend your days in school and around town, and then at night you can go into these dungeons and fight monsters, and you have this balance between daily life of going to meet people and raising your stats and going and doing stuff, and spending your nights fighting evil. And it's really cool. It's a very good traditional JRPG, and it touches on really interesting contemporary issues of power imbalances and harassment. It's very cool. If you're into JRPG games, I think with qualifications, it is one of the best ones ever.
Right on.
Groovy. I've mentioned this before, but if you're an iPhone user and you've thought about AirPods, it is life-changing. I have been using these. I love these, and it's changed the way that I, do a lot of things, because the fact they charge in the case is great. It, makes it, you don't worry about running out of battery on them. I use it with all my other devices. I'll have it connect up to my Apple TV, whatever. You can do it with, I have a Kindle Fire tablet, Fire HD tablet, which is, I use it with that. Big fan. I think, there are other brands or other stuff out there, but I think that if you're inclined to spend the money on them, I think you'll be very, very happy. And there are things that could be better. They could have better noise canceling, other things like this, but just the utility of it, it's one of the things that I think they really thought well. I thought they thought it through very well. So I've been very happy with them. I don't regret it. I was on the fence do I want to spend this much for just, little earbuds and whatever. And then I did it, and you know what? So glad I did.
Do you like the fit on those? I know I like the earbud sort of form, but I know a lot of people aren't a fan of that. Do they fit well for you?
They fit fine for me. Anything that I put in my ears for several hours at a time, I'll start to, it'll get a little bit irritating, but I haven't met one that isn't like that, any in-ear that's like that, but I've been very, very, very happy with it.
And this is one of those rare circumstances where I'm one of the lucky few that it just fits absolutely perfectly. I can wear them all day, every day. I sometimes will go to bed with the earbuds in my ears, and they will remain undisturbed. I'll wake up with them still in there.
Yeah.
They I'm not going to say they're perfect, but they've gotten damn close.
Yeah. I think it's an example of, and we're in a market now where somebody comes up with something cool, then other marketers or companies will try to figure out a way to a comparable feature for it, and then sort of kind of move forward on it. And I think that I hope more people try to adopt, the way that, like the Pixel or the Buds or whatever that Google had were, I think had better fidelity in certain things like this, but they were just bigger, just not, it's just a different solution where these things are great. You put it in your pocket, you're great. So anyway, that's my pick. Cool. Gentlemen, it's been weird.
Awesome.
Yeah. Here, I'll run to the restroom, and then we can jump into after things.
Okay.
Well, we don't happen to have any letters, do we?
We might have a short one.
Okay. Cool.
I already got. So Big Jim is sending. I have Bluetooth headphones. The Beats X headphones. It fit me pretty good. So I like the earbuds, the earbuds and the AirPods fit well for me, but the Beats X were on sale when I got them, so it's, cool. I just got the Beats X almost a year ago now, and I still really love that, so I'm kind of sticking with that. But if for some reason they bunk out or whatever, those AirPods are on the top.
The nice thing about these is the battery life is fantastic. They fit in your pocket, and it's a very, very, very unwieldy kind of thing. You can put just one in your ear too, like if I don't want to look like the most obnoxious person tuning out, you become like a regular sort of Bluetooth. So I like being able to use one.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I like about the Beats X is that it's all one cord, so I can. It won't save battery by turning one off, but I can pop them in and out as I need and just let it drop.
Yeah.
So
Those kind to me are just too unwieldy. It's just too.
It's pretty light though. They managed to pack all that stuff in without needing like a
It's,
plastic base thing.
what? I don't have anything in my ear. What are you talking about? There's nothing. Oh.
Hey man, how fast will you sign up for implants on all that stuff?
No.
Really?
No, because the upgrade cycle on these things, as implants become more viable, the rate at which we're going to keep coming up with a better new thing.
Sure. But well, what about
Oh, you got the first generation implants? How
Well-
are those glucose injections going? Like refilling it up every 30 days? I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's also consistent with what you're. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can imagine kind of a universal, imagine like they just install a magnet back here, and it's like a universal integration socket. And I guess that doesn't change anything because there'll still be upgrades to that.
Yeah, there will be a point at which there's an interface that will exceed whatever we can output. And then you'll be like, well, you just whatever connects to it's going to have the improvements on that. I just think that for me, it's like it's that the first it'll eventually the disposable ones are the ones that disintegrate or things like that or that regenerate. When we have a lot more control on what's going on with the device inside of there, it's fine. I'm not opposed to a neural ace or something else like that at all. I just, it's. We haven't solved the problem of any time you buy a new gadget, like, oh, we got to put a new update out there. We got this one,
Yeah.
Which once you cross that threshold to like, oh, yeah, this is a thing regulating my blood pressure, or this is, that's why I think Neuralace is smart to start with medical devices and solving realistic problems there. And then you figure out what we need to do. So.
Yeah. All right. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, we've got an email here. Take it away whenever you're ready, Andrew.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello.
And Mr. Bryce Castillo.
Hi, everybody.
So, gentlemen, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics if we have a chance. But, Bryce, if you want to go first, if we have an email, whatever, we can respond to that.
Yeah, we got an email. To find the email in the show notes from an anonymous. We'll read this anonymous. He didn't give his name in it. He writes, "Hey guys, I was wondering what your opinion was on drug and alcohol use in the creative process. I understand that you all have very different relationships with them things, and I can probably guess what the best thing to do is, but I would like to know your opinions on it. Thank you."
And he wrote to know sounded it was spelled like toke now.
Talk now. Man, this is a big issue because obviously the base answer is, wouldn't it be great if nobody relied on any kind of stimulants or hallucinogens or depressants of any type, and the quote unquote real you is where all your art came from and so on. And yet we have the factual database history of really wonderful things coming from people who eventually killed themselves going too far with the use of mind-altering chemicals of all varieties.
Yeah. I mean, you can even get into the recent topics of like people who are streamers who are using drugs,
stimulants
to
keep going. Yeah, I think it's all public that friend of the show.
People.
One of the friends of the show recently, was like, guys, you just watched me game for 36 hours straight. How can you not think I took Adderall? Like that's crazy. And then also we see performance enhancing chemicals, not only on the artistic side of things, but also in the sports side of things. Mm-hmm. And even, when you're in the military, a lot of the stuff available now started off as go pills and no-go pills, because if you're going to fly 48 hours to go do a bombing raid on, Serbia or whatever, you got to stay alert the entire time.
So he's asking, yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
It's a reality in that, and it's such an obvious example that we often ignore it and go, well, of course, caffeine. Starbucks is super popular because they took the caffeine out of the coffee, then people wouldn't go there. And its caffeine is a stimulant. And so there is a huge distant difference to some degree, you could say, between Starbucks to somebody who's dropping acid when they want to free form create or paint or whatever. But if you're going to Starbucks every day spending $4 or $5, that's a couple $100 a month caffeine habit, whatever, and the damages and whatever. And our bodies, we've been using substances to alter our perceptions, our speed, a lot of things for thousands of years, for tens of thousands of years, and then there's certain times historically where you've had large parts of the population were constantly a little bit buzzed or drunk because the water is so bad, and the only thing you could do was drink wine or beer or whatever, and that's one of the things, observations that my friend Peter Wax made about Ben Franklin was like, when Ben Franklin was working with other people, he realized they were all getting drunk in the morning, with a little bit of beer buzz, but he figured out if, he was drinking tea or whatever, he wouldn't have to get drunk, and he wouldn't spend as much money on beer, and he could handle their finances, and it was an advantage for him not to be there. I think you have to say, what is your goal? I have friends that are high functioning, but are also do everything, or not everything. They know, like, they probably stay away from certain things that are, but have probably tried everything, do everything. And I have friends that have done nothing. The only drug that I have ever done in my life was like after I had dental surgery and I was given Percocet, and I took a couple pills of that, did not like the way it made me feel. And I said, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. The last time I had a drink, I didn't have my first drink until 5 years ago. I mean, I tasted beer when I was 15, didn't like the taste of it. And then 5 years ago, I had, a drink on my birthday, and I probably could count the number of drinks I've had in the last 5 years, wow. Probably 10.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but that's my choice.
Well, and on the flip side, one of the first pieces of advice in the long correspondence that I had with Teller was, he said, don't drink and don't do drugs, and he meant it as a very practical thing. Like, you'll be more productive, you'll get more done. However, it's weird. I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly, but it was different when there was kind of a seminal moment when we did the pilot for Scam School, because Scam School takes place at a bar, and because the MacGuffin is getting a free drink at the bar or whatever. I, for the first time ever, had a drink with cameras around me, and you can look, or I can look at, and I don't know how much of this is contrived, perception on my part, but I look at every television appearance, every time there's a camera around me before the age of 33, and I just see a dumb, terrified set of eyes and a big fat plastic grin on my face as I don't know what to do. And then I look at everything after shooting the pilots of Scam School, where I had a beer or two and I was loosened up, and I found my tongue loosened, and I found myself, as I thought about it, if I'm a robot, it was like disabling filters, accepting increased risk of saying the wrong thing in exchange for more authentic, soul revealing interactions. And I think artistically, I could point and say, no. I became factually more comfortable around cameras after that experience. And there have been plenty of times that beer was not involved, but if anyone who listens to Night Attack will vouch for, there have been plenty of times that beer has been involved, and you can make different cases on which version of Brian is funnier or more engaged or more in the moment or whatever. But I don't think I know this much. I know it's not as black and white as I thought it was 20 years ago. And I can point to, just like playing the video game Fallout 3, Fallout 4, you're picking up every drug that you can find because it has statistical benefits. It's like you have and this is in the game, you have some wine because it increases your strength and charisma, but reduces your endurance or whatever. I think there's a nugget of reality to that, and I don't have any answers as far as what the right amount is, but I know that where I'm at now is I'm not willing to dismiss out of hand that there might not be a net benefit to substance use for some people. I don't have any solution. I know that the perfect solution, which of course the perfect is, often imaginary, is that all of us, just are who we are, and it comes from within, and that there are healthy ways to manifest it. But I personally have experienced some counterfactual examples of that.
agree with everything you said, Brian. I also think that there's something to be concerned about or to keep an eye out for when you tie what you would consider creative success to drugs or alcohol use. Right. If you say, well, I am better when I'm on, let's say I'm better when I drink, then you go down the road of, am I better when I drink more? Do I need to drink to be as good as this? How dependent do you become on this? And I think that's where, like, even moderation, you can still become hooked on a moderate amount, where I need a little bit to get me through it. And I think that's, well, and whether or not it's healthy, it's
a very serious cliff. It's a very dangerous game to play, and there's a very good reason that the default answer should be what Teller told me: don't drink, don't do drugs, right?
Well,
Because the odds of you dying trying to chase the dragon of that perfect set, of that perfect art, are very low if you're not drinking and not doing drugs, and they become very high if you're doing either or both.
Yeah, I'd like to expand that, because I'm very much like, I remember, remember as a kid finding out, Carl Sagan smoked pot, and that was the thing for me. It's like, and that's, I make the joke, imagine what he could have done if he did.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's silly. It's like he did, and you look at a lot of your favorite musicians and stuff do this, but never let that be a reason too, because there are so many great and talented people that don't do it, that are straight. Like Teller, in my opinion, is the greatest magician today, and maybe one of the greatest magicians ever in history.
Agreed.
He is one of the most extremely productive, creative people we know of. And I know a number of people that don't. And I know a number of people that did in the early days because they thought, I'm an artist, I need to do this. And then they got out of it because they realized they looked at how many people around them, there was the price to pay, and they got off of it, and they were still extremely productive and creative. Maybe it helped unlock. I don't know. I think that's the dumbest reason in the world to do it, is if you think because somebody else does it, you want to try it for yourself to try to do it, if you haven't explored other ways to do that. I'm my own person. Nobody's like me. I don't try to be like anybody else. I have no problem writing tons of books and being extremely creative. I have an output that I've heard people like, oh yeah, this writer, he's coked up and he writes this. I'm like, I write that much, I write that many words a day, and I'm to use anything, and I wrote, 0 words a day 7 years ago. So I trained myself to do this. And I think that often the benefits, and I get the idea of relaxing and that, and particularly if you have you have to perform, I understand the attractiveness there.
By the way, they're different animals. I think, especially in my 20s, it was easy to never have a drink for anything because it was so important for the safety of, doing a magic show is a different type of experience than speaking extemporaneously, telling stories, trying to be a raconteur and get everybody, on the same wavelength as you. I was very much able to refine an act, to do it over and over and over and over again with increasing precision every single time, to where finally I was worried about a single pause of a single breath in the third act, 43 minutes into a performance. And yet it was so different whenever there was an interview, or I was dealing with so many vectors, or if I was trying to tell a story off the cuff or whatever. And I realized that I was deer in the headlights. I was flash frozen due to anxiety. And, there's a million different ways to get through that, whether it's meditation, whether it's exercise, whether it's probably the best one, which is just repeatedly putting yourself in a situation where you deal with that. But I'm not encouraging anybody to turn to any chemicals. I just don't think in good conscience I can say there's nothing good that comes from them artistically.
I don't think anybody's trying to make the point to say, oh, there's nothing to have it. But I would sort of add some caveats there. I'm in LA, and I know some very high functioning people that if you took that thing out of life, I don't know if they're going to enjoy life as much. It's a part of what they do, it's funny though, because I talked to, I hung out with some people who are like, everybody there's like, oh, we do ayahuasca. I'm like, so let me see, you stay up late and you throw up in a bucket? That sounds fantastic. This is like the worst. This is like a punishment. I'd rather be waterboarded than do that. I live in LA, where I'm surrounded, by people who use all sorts of substances stuff with varying degrees of success. But I will say there is a pattern, and it's an anecdotal observation But my friends who are the least productive, the least successful are the ones that use the most. Even just marijuana, they're the ones, because the problem happens is they get a deadline, they get stressed out, they get high, right? They have an audition in the morning, they get stressed out, they get high. And then they get after the audition, they're still stressed out about how the audition turned out. They get high, not to relax, but to deal with their anxieties, and they keep self-medicating themselves. And I know a number of people that I think are complete F-ups, are complete screw-ups, because it's hard. And when you use, it's hard to know where the limit is and where your strain is. And we have different biochemistries and biologies and stuff. I know some successful people that lost 3 or 4 years out of their lives because they're like, oh, this is cool. I do this, helps me relax. Do this. Well, I'll do this other thing, and I'll do this. The next thing you know, they've got to go to rehab because it's become, even though they're performing a lot and they're working a lot, they've gotten into this spiral sort of thing. So my advice is don't and find ways to do it, because not to say that it can't work or whatever, but I think that the trade-off, I think, is just not, I know why a lot of creative personalities do this, because when you don't fit into the world and you want to change the world, there's an appeal there. But if you're not doing it now and it's not, don't even bother. Why? Because there's so many people who don't need it. But I get the relaxation, I get that sort of thing, but it's such a dangerous sort of slope that I think most people don't need to. It becomes a crutch.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we would all three agree that the null hypothesis should be that find out what you're capable of without any kind of intervention of any kind of chemical nature whatsoever.
Yeah.
And see how far that goes. I think that universally should be, because it might be that what is in you is so beautiful and white hot and liquid fire that to corrupt it with anything chemical would be a tragedy to the art you're trying to put out.
But I'll say on the other part of it, though, if you're in an industry or something like that where it is the norm, and if you say, you know what, I want to be a competitive bodybuilder, and you need to use steroids, and you need to use these things to train. If you know what you're doing, and I'm not going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's your choice. It's your choice. But I think in a lot of creative endeavors, I think that, if you're getting by without it, then you don't need it. If you think that's the thing that's blocking you, I don't think that's often what's blocking a lot of people. I mean, there's a difference. Sometimes you notice a difference. Somebody on Adderall play a game for 36 hours straight. I can't do that. If I was on Adderall, I could probably write for 36 hours straight. Not going to really help me in the end of it, because if that time, there are cases where you go, yeah, like fighter pilots. Fighter pilots without go pills aren't going to be as effective, but unless it's a really particular edge case scenario where you're really need it,
Man, this letter does such a good job of framing it. I don't know what. I don't know. It sounds like none of us know the answer, but all of us know that being safe and alive is better than being irresponsible and dead.
And there's a difference between tying it to your creative process and your creative drive, and to whether you're exploring it or experimenting. But it can't be core. It really shouldn't be core to whatever it is you're doing. That's incredibly dangerous.
Agreed. Absolutely.
An anecdote. One of the reasons I did not drink until I didn't have my first drink till a couple of years ago was first 15 tasted beer, said this sucked, said I don't want to, why develop a taste for this now? If I don't like it, I'll probably be more productive. When I was 18 years old and I was working on my first cruise ship, I could drink because I'm on a cruise ship, and 18 and up was the drinking age there, right? And I had passenger status, so I could do that. And I'm thinking, I'm 18 years old, I'm on a ship, which is a floating bar. I looked at every entertainer I knew. By the time they were 30, they had a drinking problem. Not necessarily a huge one, but they had ones where some of them every day they would get a buzz or get buzzed to a point. Everybody I knew, and some of them were much worse that I saw, one of the people I looked up to, who developed a heroin addiction. This guy had a heroin addiction. He kept trying to do these Asian, kept doing these Asian tours and stuff, and I didn't quite understand. And then I realized, and then someone told me, yeah, that's because he's does this. And then I watched him, a guy with a lot of amazing talent, very, very charismatic person. And I watched his career just flat out hit, because he was a guy that he could handle it. Heroin's another issue too, because it's like, stories we could tell about people whose names you recognize, and how that's become problematic. So for me, I was 18 years old. I said, I'm not going to drink because everybody I know, because you're stuck on a cruise ship, you're on a floating bar, all you can do is drink. You go to the crew bar, it's a bar. You go to an island, where do you go? You go hang out at a bar. I said, I'm going to be the weirdo, and I know people are going to think I'm a weirdo, but if I don't drink, I won't have that problem. I won't be a 29-year-old person with this, the big monkey I'm trying to get off my back is an addiction that I could have avoided entirely. This is my choice. So, but not everybody, obviously not everybody who drinks is going to have an addiction, but that was my choice, was looking around me, because every entertainer I knew had a problem.
Well, and I think it's a good point that you bring up, where it's like there's different paths to success, and the more conventional one does involve socializing and networking, and oftentimes it's at a bar in that kind of situation. And for you to take the more challenging path, obviously seems to have paid off pretty well for you. So for anybody who's questioning, like, do I have to take the common path and do this thing that a lot of other people do to socialize, to connect, to build bonding moments? The answer is no, you do not. There are plenty of different other paths.
Now, if I were to go back in time and talk to young Brian Brushwood, and let's say he wasn't doing a show about trying to get a bar bet, but get a drink in a bar.
Right.
And he's like, I'm doing a street magic show, whatever. I feel anxiety, whatever. What would you suggest I do? I'm like, Brian, I have the perfect plan for you. I'm going to put you through what I went through. I'm going to have you take 4 different improv courses at once.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to have you go on stage and do every stupid thing you can in front of an audience. I'm going to have you go through every single thing, break down that barrier kind of thing. And now when you go in front of there, you're going to be like, whatever,
I think that what you're getting at is, once you remove the fear of failure, once you've experienced every variety, every flavor of failure that you're going to interact with, it loses its sting. It becomes familiar territory. You're like, oh yeah, this is that kind of failure where they're all booing me. This is that other kind of failure where I seize up and didn't respond or whatever. And I think that there are different ways to conquer all those fears.
Yeah. And so I would say that sometimes you look at, like, okay, I have an anxiety. I know that, getting a little bit buzzed or a little high may help that. Like, it's fine. But are there other ways to solve this sort of thing? And it might end up being the most expedient way is to have a drink before you go do it. But, like, man, I just out here with entertainers and in a culture that doesn't really tell people pull back, dial back, dude.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're surrounded. You're in the belly of the beast right there.
It's amazing what people consider normal here.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our answer. We don't have an answer, but look.
The answer is good question.
And we're also not addiction
point to examples of where performance enhancing, mind altering, whatever things have certainly been a part of somebody's success. And that's can be a reality, but also look for examples of where it wasn't part of it. And I think that you may not get in the same place, but a different place it could be just as good, and ultimately may be more sustainable. So,
yeah.
So, like, I was so influenced because Penn and Teller didn't drink or do drugs, and as a teenager I heard that. My friends and I said, this is cool, and I was the one that stuck with that the longest of not doing it. And finally, I was like, all right, I'm going to taste beer. I'm going to try a drink because I don't want to act like a vampire. Like, it's going to, like, I didn't want to be that my obsession being, and I've never done this thing. But you drink caffeine. Yeah, but that's totally different-ish,
Sure.
I'll alter myself with this substance, but not this one. I didn't want to be, a cartoon character. My thing I want to bring up again is, man, I've been having a great time studying, learning. I learned my goal for my birthday was I wanted to learn Python, right? Because Python's used in all these cool things, a lot of cool programming, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all this sort of stuff. So I went to Udemy, and I found a course. It was like a $10 course on, it was of Python, and it was like 30 hours of instruction, right? Or 20 or 30 hours of instruction for $10. Quizzes, code-alongs, all this sort of stuff. I was talking to a friend who's in college about what that stuff I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, that's like the college course I'm doing. I'm like, oh, it's $10 for me, my own time, And then I did a machine learning course, and I found out that was the same one as very similar to a college program that's using the same tool sets and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff, and you're on your own to sort of do this. We are at an amazing time. And I'm surprised, but not surprised, but sort of surprised that more people aren't gobbling up these skills.
Well, It's almost as though the limitation is not the expense of college. It's the limitation is there are people who want the comfort of being surrounded by paternalistic teachers and tutors who will make sure that you stay on task.
Oh, and I'm not even talking about as a substitute for college, like post college, like just picking up, like I have it being among creatives. I talk to people who are creatives and not having traction and out of work or financially difficult situations and stuff. And it's like, how has your resume changed in the last 5 years? How is that the part that says skills? Have those skills declined in value? Have they increased in value? I think that's the thing I say. Look at that factor in your resume. It says skills should be growing, and it also should be more relevant, not less relevant. There's no excuse. And people can say time. I'm like, yes, we go through periods of time where it's hard to find it. But if you've got a Netflix subscription, or if you have a video game system of some kind, spend half the time on there and half the time in learning these skills. It's an amazing time. And I've said this story before, but 6 months after I started doing, one of these programs and just started making my own projects just to see what happened, I would be at parties and getting job offers, and I have to qualify, like, no, I'm a writer. I'm not looking for a job, whatever. But it was because once you have a proficiency, or at least know how to be proficient at something, there's an interest there. So
I would say even step it a little bit back, because personally, I would feel the anxiety of like, oh, golly, I don't know. Do I identify as a programmer? Am I really the type of person to try this language or that language? And the answer is you don't have to know if you're that kind of person or not, but you are obligated to open the door to the possibility that you are. And you could do that and just say, you know what, for 1 week, I'm going to spend 20 minutes a day trying to learn Python. And 1 week from now, I'll know if I hate it or not.
I'm not even talking about programming. I'm talking about, like, there's tons of great stuff on Photoshop and other things and design, and their courses. There's a lot of different systems out there, Udemy, Skillshare, things like this, that will give you a really good, deep understanding about anything podcasting, whatever. Like, and people like, I know how to podcast. Like, well, there's a lot more to know about, what Bryce knows versus somebody who wants to start doing it. There's a world of difference. Audio production. There is databases. There's so much stuff out there between Lynda. Like, if you have a library card, most library systems in the United States, Lynda, Lynda, you take a look at the courses on Lynda, and there's an amazing number of things there. And people get so focused in like, well, I get a certificate that's useful somewhere else. And it's like, maybe not, but like if you take a look at like lynda.com, which is free for most people, like, they have simple stuff on finance and tips and PowerPoint, and then personal effectiveness, economic success habits, resume designing, PowerPoint. I mean, you just get into like the supply chains, things like this. If I wanted to go work for a medium-sized company and accounting or some other warehouse management, if I said, yeah, well, I know this thing about logistics, or I know this or whatever, it's amazing. I'm saying there's so much stuff out there.
Have you I don't know if this is more of a programmer thing, but have you messed around with the Swift Playgrounds thing from Apple?
Yeah, so Swift Playgrounds, what that does is it's basically like sometimes when you work with a program system, what you want to do is basically run things as you do it. So it makes it, instead of having to do anything from the command line. And so Swift Playgrounds is a really great way to learn the Swift programming language. Mm-hmm. It teaches you basics. And the thing that I found out is that from learning different languages is that once you learn the basics of one language, learning another one, it's not like foreign languages, the rules all change. In computers, it's and or operators and stuff like this. It's syntax, but you can have a glossary in front of you to go like, oh, if I'm writing a function here, I've got to use semicolons after the end of a line. This one doesn't care. It was very easy for me to go from Ruby to Swift to Python. And I'm not a master at any of these at all, but I can find the answers to what I'm trying to do. But yeah, Swift Playgrounds is good. There's a lot of really cool stuff online, for other stuff. But I think Swift Playgrounds is a great way to understand the basics. And Swift, we hopefully will see it in other places. Swift is challenging though, because it's a code safe language, which means it doesn't like you to, if a function's not going to work and fail, you have to explicitly say this is how you're going to handle error handling and stuff, which is it's a technical way of saying that if you want to just start something that's a little more easier, I used to tell people Ruby, and now I just say do Python.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah.
So
Ruby's great if you want to do web development because Ruby and Rails, it's super fast. You can put together a website that interacts with databases and stuff the fastest on Ruby on Rails. But when you're getting into building other stuff, like you can build, Python programs, you can get it to run on a Raspberry Pi, it'll run on a Mac, it'll run on a Windows,
Did you, the lessons that you took, are they video lessons? Are they printed or?
I think they're usually video, right?
So yeah, the courses, what they do, like the Udemy course I did, I think that the thing I did, this guy named Colt Steele has a course on Udemy, which
it's a
let's
rad
take
name.
a look. Yeah, it is awesome, and he's a great instructor because it's funny though. It's like he's got cats in there in the middle of it. You'll see him yelling at one of his cats. So let's see. Type on modern. Yeah, go back modern Python 3 boot camp.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is a great introduction to it. This is 30 hours of content.
Holy
okay.
cow.
And what you'll do is you go through, and he is a great instructor because he does the videos, and then you have these coding exercises which are built into the system. So, hey, try to make this function work here, and then you go in there and you try to code this function and make it work. And then if you don't work it, it says no, try again. So there's an interactive part, there's quizzes, there's all this. And I would argue that the level of the material, I think that some of these courses are better than what you take in a college course. Because often a college course is an instructor in front of a blackboard and they haven't gone through the efforts of actually trying to make their materials really work there.
As approachable as possible.
Yeah. So $12, it's a 30-hour course. I mean, but then there's so many other things in there too that I recommend everybody get some understanding of what programming is because it affects every part of your life now.
I'll tell you what, like in our lifetime, we've seen the emergence of a nationwide effort to get people up off the couch, get them athletic. We see the Presidential Council on Physical Fitness and all that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 30 years we saw a similar universal level effort to get people into the habit of not exercising their body, but instead, growing. And it's like, just like you might casually say, hey, what do you do for working out? As if like, of course you do something for working out. You would be an unhealthy person if you didn't. It'd be interesting to say like, oh, what are you learning these days? What courses are you taking? And make it one of those universally appreciated and approached things.
Mm-hmm. There's Hour of Code and there's Code Day, which is one. And I don't think most people's ambition in life is not to be a computer programmer, understood. But understanding a little bit of how these things work helps you because all the tools we use for the most part are that, or it's affecting us. And you hear these terms thrown about. And now when you read things about, when you're a tech journalist is covering artificial intelligence, they don't know what they're covering. They don't have the time. I think people have time to learn a little bit more, but anyhow, point is, yeah, learn it like this, learn some stuff, get in there, but look at these Lynda, Udemy, go through these courses. Just, the cost is no longer a reason. Access to information. It used to be several hundred years ago, if you wanted to learn a thing, you had to go to somebody who knew this thing and beg them to teach you, and you become an apprentice. And then finally, maybe they would teach you something, okay? Then we had the idea of public schools, which is the idea of let's not make, certain knowledge just restricted to the rich. Let's let other people have access to it. And I would say by and large, the idea of public education has been a wonderful impact on humanity. And we can have arguments on how it should function, how it should be structured, whatever. But the idea that everybody should be able to have access to learning the fundamentals is great. There was arguments in magic, though, about like, Brian's the devil because Brian's teaching everybody who wants to learn magic.
Yeah. Well, and as we know, there are only 75 units of magic in the world. And the more people have them, the less you have.
Or even the argument would be that oh, well, you need to prove that you're like I got to let some creepy guy in the van decide if I get to learn how to, do a second deal. That doesn't sound safe.
Yeah.
So we've had this amazing revolution in the last 30 years, primarily because of computers, where it's cheap. It's effectively costs nothing through YouTube. You can learn just about anything you want. It doesn't mean that I can watch a video and become an airplane mechanic, but I can watch a video about engines and building things and stuff and then say, I've got a knowledge, then go to a community college course, then find my way through there. But it's a heck of a lot easier to get that base knowledge.
Man, I know factual accounts of people who figured out that now that information was free, they could spend 2 or 3 weeks reading all the tutorials, watching all the videos, and I don't know, get a pilot's license. And I know people who, after having done that, they flew the exact minimum number of hours behind and got their license, and then immediately, they ran up the hours and they flew commercial airliners because they studied exactly that which they absolutely needed to learn.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Don't be afraid to learn. You should have, I think everybody should have part of their week, as Brian put, there's exercise. There's like, I'm going to spend a couple hours a week learning something new, learning a skill.
So is Udemy and Lynda, are they, you pay the cover charge and it's all you can eat on the inside?
No.
So
it's
Lynda
per course?
Lynda is subscription where you get access to their thing. Udemy is a marketplace, so people will sell their own courses. So like this modern Python one is like $11 on sale right now.
Yeah, they do sales. Udemy, you pay once, you have that course for lifetime. Lynda subscription, but Lynda is often free. Most libraries have an agreement where you can use Lynda. I use several different ones, and one of the ways that I'll learn something is I did 3 different Python tutorials, and then I did 2 machine learning, and now I started on my 3rd one as I start doing stuff. The goal is not to be like, I finished it, everybody, look, I got the certificate. Your goal is to learn this stuff.
Yep.
So,
I mean,
I repeat stuff. I go take other courses to sort of even the same material because my brain hurts when I'm trying to learn things.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you got any other picks for after things?
I'm gonna say, hey, my pick is you go to Udemy right now. They're doing their $11 grad sale. They're doing courses on there, and I think that my pick is if you want to learn a programming language, I think Python's great or Ruby's great. Ruby's great because you can be building like a good Ruby on Rails course. You're up and running in like 3 minutes creating a website, which is kind of awesome. And then you learn about things like, the development environments, how you code in there using online ones, which are really cool. The idea of an online one, it's a browser that lets you do your code and it runs it on a remote server. So you don't have to install anything on your home desktop, and you can have that server have access and create websites and stuff. It's how I build author page. Just pick one. Go take a look at it. My pick.
You know what? Following your example, I'm going to give my pick is one of the things that we're doing is, we got this drone. But of course, you want to get FAA certified if you're going to do it for any kind of commercial whatevers. And they have courses that are $200 that promise to teach you all the things that you need to know. There's a fantastic 2-hour video, and it's titled Free Drone Certification Study Guide from Tony and Chelsea Northrup. And I've just been leaving it playing in the background, and it's amazing how much you pick up, even while I'm goofing around playing Hearthstone or whatever. Like, you can't not... It's more challenging than you would expect to unknow the stuff that you pick up. When you learn this means this, megahertz frequency is, for parking information and not for significant, flight information. This other section here, it's like, here's how you read an FAA chart. And these are, this 400 feet means this for this reason and that reason. It's great. You pick up that information, and I think we're going to try to get everybody on the team drone certified so that we can all use the drone for commercial purposes, which we definitely haven't done until now.
So 2 things. One, by the way, Udemy has several courses too available, and I'm looking at one here. They have one, build your own open source drone, which I will have a project with a friend where we're building one for questionable purposes. And if I had watched this damn course with him, we probably would have saved ourselves a couple months of work just because of what we were trying to. And I don't know if this course is available then. And that's the other thing is you're like, I don't want to spend 12 hours, but you find out, oh my gosh, they actually have a course here for $11 on getting your certification. Read the reviews. Sometimes they're not as highly rated, and you read the reviews. It's because somebody wants it to be easy. Sometimes it's real valid concern.
Sure.
But yeah, there's like they have stunning aerial videography and photography using drones, $11. How to become a drone pilot and start a business.
I will go ahead and qualify my recommendation on this. This 2-hour course is definitely targeted on passing the certification. It's basically like a lot, and he says, look, there's 3 questions. One is always going to be basically a joke, and then there's going to be 2 that seem legit. And he said that, a lot of this is common sense stuff if you understand how to read a map or whatever. But, for the parts that aren't, here's some weird stuff that only applies to airline pilots, but I'm going to tell it to you because you need to know it for this drone course. Don't ask me why it's on the test. I'm just here to tell you how to pass the test.
That's helpful. So, man, there's so much stuff out there. Bryce?
I don't have a learning pick, but I've been watching Arrested Development. And
is the new season out, or you're watching the previous one?
Yeah, so the new, the first half of the 5th season is out, and it's okay. It made me go back and rewatch the first 3 seasons, and those still really hold up.
How is it watching this beloved property in the context of that weird interview where everybody was sort of talking about Jeffrey Tambor in front of him, and his
Jessica Walters.
Jessica Walters broke down crying and stuff. It's like,
it's not zero. It's not a zero effect. There are some weird things about it, and I don't know. I like season 5, at least what is out now of season 5, because they split it in half. I really liked season 4 where they changed everything up and they had this funky, timeline
iTunes interface.
Yeah. And season 5 is kind of like a half step back from that, and I think it's worse because it's still trying to tell these really long character stories, but in these really short formats, and there's a lot of narration, and it's kind of weird. But the first 3 seasons still really hold up. I am almost done rewatching those, and that's just an all-time great comedy. So, Arrested Development.
I've been meaning to start watching it.
You're gonna give it a try one of these days.
I'm like, that's the it's a funny thing. It's like I have a myriad number of weird hobbies and things like this, and then people go, how do you find the time? And they ask me a basic question about something in culture or society. I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
That's your default answer now. It's like, how do you have time for it? You're like, I never watched Arrested Development. And then everybody will understand. They're all like, oh, geez.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Well, but it's sort of an interesting thing, because it's like if you watched one less season a year of a show and you spent that 20 hours, like I just looked at like Colt Steele, who did the really great Python course. He has a new course out, which is on cryptocurrencies and stuff, which like how to build environmentally unfriendly technologies that pirate from the electrical grid and perhaps put a lot of our currencies into
or the counterfactual being get paid a modest token amount for keeping alive the infrastructure for a 21st century decentralized currency.
I think there are better ways to do it than I'm all into cryptocurrency. Let me be very, very clear. I'm all into blockchain. I love that. And I stand by what I said about 5 years ago in a white paper. Like, the problem is that this is the system as it is increases inefficiencies. When we start using things like, hey, selling computational cycles and creating value from it, that's when it gets exciting for me. But it's a thing that people should, I think he's got a course out about it, for it's like $11. It's a 10-hour course. And I think at the end of that 10-hour course, somebody who has an interest in this area will probably have a very, very intelligent discussion, more so than me, about this. And that's what I love about this is it's like, hey, for $11, 10 hours of your time, a couple hours a day in a week, we've talked about this before, like to get to the top 99% is effing hard. And you got to have a lot of things in there, but to get to the smart top 80% level,
yeah,
probably a couple weekends.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, B+ lifestyle, live it.
Yeah, B+ students. Summer school's better than you think. So, all right, guys, thank you very much. This has been fun. It's been after.
Cool. Alrighty, hey, good show, everybody.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Man, heavy question for 2:00 on a Monday afternoon.
A little bit. We're gonna go offline here in a couple minutes. Thank you everybody for checking out the Weird Things podcast. We will be back soon with Cord Killers. Back.
Yeah.
Cord Killers finally back. You doing anything, Andrew? You want people to know about like right now?
My books, Naturalist Looking Glass, those are out. If you want, check out Andrew Main's books. Amazon's probably the easiest way to get it. Audible, got several titles on Audible. Fantastic with Station Breaker and Orbital, and people have been listening to those. Have told me great things. So,
nice. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Everybody, check it out.
Yeah.
All right, I got to record a voiceover for a thing.
Bye.
Okay.
I wonder what that thing is. Hope it's great.